Sarai could barely believe her eyes. From the moment she was born, Devine's moon had been shattered. It was a scar on the night sky, a reminder of the cost that hubris exacts on both mortals and gods alike. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Yeldarb asked.
I never thought I'd see it whole like this. It's incredible,
Sarai whispered. "We should get moving," Yeldarb said, stepping into Sarai's view. For a moment, she had forgotten that he stripped down to his undergarments just moments before. The runes on his skin seemed to sparkle and dance in the moonlight. He gestured toward the road leading to Giant's Bane. "We should go to the city gates. You can tell them you captured me." Sarai nodded.
And after that, the way I see it, we need to secure an audience with the Eluthian Titans. We'll talk to Finton and tell him what has happened in the future.
Yeldarb sighed. "I wish it were that simple. Not only will it be incredibly difficult to get an audience with the Titans, but Finton won't know who we are. You'll have no reason to believe us. We'll need proof." Sarai pulled the chronoscepter from her back and held it out in front of her.
Is this not proof enough?
She asked. Yeldarb shrugged. "It's a start, but it hardly verifies our story. We also don't know what will happen if we tell the Titans in the past about events that have yet to transpire." Sarai placed the chronoscepter on her back.
I suppose you're right. Let's begin with securing an audience. We'll go from there.
Yeldarb held out his hands, bound together with rope. "You'll need to lead me. Remember, Talion didn't have basic rights in this time. You need to treat me as such." Sarai took hold of the rope dangling from Yeldarb's bound wrists.
Beyond your lack of clothing, I don't enjoy any part of this plan.
Sarai held back a chuckle as Yeldarb blushed. His eyes went wide, and he quickly cleared his throat. "Yes, well, I believe this is the best course of action. It will help us blend in." Sarai smiled as she turned away from Yeldarb. As they made their way toward the road leading to Giant's Bane, the sounds of celebration filled the air. The celestial feast was well underway. Magic spells continued to explode in the skies above them, portraying images of dragons, ocean waves, and of course, the Eluthian Titans themselves. As they reached the road, Sarai and Yeldarb spotted a Majiri caravan. It was decorated with extravagant fabrics and jewels. Beneath it, a small army of Talion slaves carried it forward on their backs. Their emaciated bodies and sunken eyes were a horrific sight. Sarai's heart sank as she imagined how Yeldarb must have felt, seeing his people treated in such a way. They had no doubt gone for days without food or rest, all to carry a people who could just as easily have used magic to transport themselves. Sarai walked alongside the road, pulling Yeldarb behind her. As they reached the gate, one of the guards spotted them and approached with his spear at the ready. "State your business!" the guard shouted. Sarai watched as the Majiri caravan passed into the city. Her eyes wandered back to the guard.
My name is Sarai of House Rashan. I'm an emissary of the World Tree, come here from Avondale Forest to participate in the Celestial Feast.
The guard's eyes looked past Sarai and over to Yeldarb, who stood hunched over behind her. "And what about the Talion? He with you?" the guard asked. Sarai shook her head.
I caught him trying to flee. I figured the Majiri would want him back.
The guard nodded.
"I hear they pay well for deserters. Doesn't end well for them, though."
Sarai shrugged.
Not my problem. Are we free to pass?
The guard nodded.
"Sure. You know where to take him?"
Yes. I've done this before.
The guard returned to his post. Sarai and Yeldarb made their way into Giant's Bane. The streets were filled with all manner of different peoples from across the realm. Vendors were all set up along the street, selling everything from food to homemade potions and handmade children's toys. It was a celebration of Devine as a whole, a melting pot of every race that once graced the realm. The sight was truly incredible to behold, equal parts inspiring and impossible to eyes that came from a much darker future. Sarai pulled Yeldarb into an alley away from the festivities.
Now what? Should we look for the Titans?
Yeldarb shook his head.
"They're not going to be out here with the rest of the people. If I had to guess, they would be staying at the castle, but there's no chance they'll let us in. We need some sort of cover story."
You didn't plan this far ahead?
Sarai asked. In case you've forgotten, I've never done this before. I'm just as lost as you are. Sarai closed her eyes and tried to organize her racing thoughts. All she could think about is the threat that awaits them in the future. That's when it hit her.
We should tell them about Avondale, about the rot,
she said. No, absolutely not. We have no idea how that will affect the future, Yeldarb replied. Before she could respond, Sarai felt eyes on her. She looked up and saw a Majiri battle mage approaching. They pulled their hood down, revealing translucent skin and glowing indigo eyes.
By the Titans! You found him! I was told he was long gone,
the Majiri said, stepping into the alley with them. Sarai looked back to Yeldarb and then to the Majiri.
Yes, I did. I was traveling from Avondale Forest and I saw him walking on the side of the road. I figured someone here would recognize him.
The Majiri's face twisted into a devilish smile.
You did very well, my elven friend. He is going to pay dearly for disrespecting my father. I will see to it that you're paid handsomely for your assistance.
The Majiri reached out and took the rope from Sarai's hand. She looked over to Yeldarb, who nodded solemnly.
With all due respect, friend, I don't release my prisoners until I've been paid. I'm sure you understand.
The Majiri chuckled.
Yes, I understand. But this slave is a special case. You have my word, as the heir to Archmage Xerxes, that you will get your payment.
Sarai went to say something else when she felt Yeldarb's hand brush her elbow. She made eye contact with him. His eyes were full of fear. He shook his head slowly. Sarai looked back to the Majiri, who was practically salivating at the prospect of Yeldarb's capture.
Very well. You may take him,
she said. The Majiri bowed deeply.
It was a pleasure doing business with you. I don't believe I got your name.
It's Sarai. Sarai Rashan.
He nodded.
Very good. Should we cross paths again, you may refer to me as Acolyte Maros. Thank you again, Sarai. Enjoy the feast.
Sarai forced a smile.
You too.
She watched the Majiri battle mage lead Yeldarb away. The two melted into the crowd of revelers. Sarai's heart raced in her chest. Her mind was reeling. She was at a loss of what to do next. As a child, Sarai would often pray to the World Tree in times like this. All elves possessed a telepathic connection with that ancient spirit of Avondale Forest. In the future, her connection had been severed when the rot escaped, but perhaps the past would be different.
World Tree, if you can somehow hear me, I need your guidance,
Sarai whispered, closing her eyes and lowering her head. The sounds of the feast became distant. A familiar voice rang out in her mind.
My child, you do not belong here.
Yeldarb was grateful that Sarai listened to reason. Neither of them had been alive when the Majiri were at the height of their civilization, but he had read enough history books to know that they would lose in a fight, even with just one of them. Capture, terrifying as the prospect may be, was the better of the two choices.
Keep moving,
Acolyte Maros said, shoving Yeldarb forward. There has been some sort of mistake. I am not the Talion you seek, Yeldarb said, hoping to appeal to reason. Acolyte Maros stepped in front of Yeldarb and stared at him with his menacing, glowing eyes.
You all look the same to me,
he spat.
In any case, you fit the description. Broken horn and all.
Yeldarb stifled a laugh. That's all you're looking for. Any Talion could have a broken horn. The Majiri closed his fist and punched the air between them. Yeldarb felt an invisible impact on his left side, like the world itself had knocked the wind out of him. He collapsed onto the ground, gasping for air. Acolyte Maros leaned down so he could whisper in Yeldarb's ear.
Give me an excuse, Blueskin. I'll kill you without a second thought.
Yeldarb knew this one couldn't be reasoned with. He nodded as he stood to his feet.
Now, move!
He shoved Yeldarb again, pushing him through the crowd of revelers. Soon the Majiri caravan loomed in the distance. The eyes of his fellow Talion fell upon him with a mixture of concern and empathy. It was one thing to read about such atrocities in aging scrolls accompanied by crude drawings. It was another thing to witness them with his own eyes. Yeldarb was overcome by sorrow at the sight of it. He didn't have time to ponder, however, because soon Acolyte Maros led him through the fabric entryway of the caravan. Inside, the Majiri leadership sat upon jewel-encrusted thrones. On the left was Archmage Xerxes, perhaps the most cruel of the Majiri archmages. Beside him was his wife, and commander of the Majiri battle mages, Archmistress Seliri. Yeldarb paused, searching his mind for anything he knew about these historical figures that now sat before him. A sharp pain in the back of his leg interrupted his thoughts. He fell to his knees as he felt Acolyte Maros' hand around the back of his neck.
"Mother, father, I have brought the escaped Talion,"
he said. Archmage Xerxes narrowed his eyes. They emanated a deep golden light.
"You captured him yourself?" "No, your eminence. I was brought here by an Ah!"
Yeldarb's vision spun as something heavy hit the back of his head.
"Silence!"
Acolyte Maros shouted.
"Your kind is not permitted to speak to the Archmage."
He took a deep breath and let it out slowly.
"Yes, father. I captured this one myself."
Yeldarb clenched his jaw as the pain continued to echo across his skull. He lifted his eyes to see Archmage Xerxes smiling.
"Ha ha ha ha! Wonderful! Perhaps this is the beginning of a new era for you,"
he said, turning to his wife. Her deep crimson eyes held no emotion whatsoever.
"Only time will tell,"
she said flatly. Archmage Xerxes stood up and clapped his hands together.
"Now, let us make an example of this one."
Yeldarb's heart skipped a beat. He looked over to Acolyte Maros, who was grinning like his father.
"Perhaps a public execution, father. An offering to the Titans on this most holy of nights."
"Yes, a fine idea, my son. We will execute him in front of all his fellow Talion. A reminder of what happens when you try to run."
A pair of Majiri guards lifted Yeldarb to his feet. Panic swept over his body. His mind stumbled from one thought to the next. They carried him back outside, and he watched as other Majiri guards cleared out a space in front of the caravan. The eyes of curious onlookers mixed with the haunted gaze of his fellow Talion. Neither were interested in helping him. The guards pushed Yeldarb back to his knees. He felt cold steel press against the back of his neck.
"Father, may I have this honor?"
Acolyte Maros asked.
"Of course, my son. This is your quarry. You may finish what you started,"
Archmage Xerxes replied. Yeldarb started praying to every single one of the Eleuthean Titans.
"People of Davine, before you is a Talion who tried to escape from the Majiri's embrace. This Talion killed innocents, women, children, all in pursuit of undeserved freedom. Tonight, we will make an example of him. This is what happens when you defy the greatest magic users of the realm."
Yeldarb felt the blade against his neck begin to warm up. The hairs on his skin stood on end as magic coursed through the blade. At the very least, it would be a quick death.
"Any last words, Blueskin?"
Acolyte Maros asked. Yeldarb clenched his fists.
"You may think that your rule is eternal, but your days are numbered, Majiri. One day, the Talion will be free."
Acolyte Maros laughed.
"That will never happen."
"It will. I have seen it with my own eyes."
Yeldarb felt the blade pull back as Acolyte Maros readied his swing. He shut his eyes.
"I'm so sorry, Isara. I wasn't strong enough."
"Wait! Don't kill him!" Yeldarb's eyes shot open. He looked up as a well-dressed emissary from the castle broke free from the crowd. His face was bright red, and his breaths came in short, hurried bursts.
"What is the meaning of this?"
Acolyte Maros asked. The emissary held out a roll of parchment. Yeldarb watched the Majiri take it and open it with contempt. Acolyte Maros grunted in frustration.
The Titans want to see him? Why?"
The emissary caught his breath and stood back up, adjusting the creases in his tunic. "It is not my place to question the will of the Titans. Now unhand him! He's coming back to the castle with me!" Yeldarb stood to his feet. Resisting the urge to smile as the Majiri unbound him, it felt good to have his hands free. He froze as he felt Acolyte Maros' breath hot on his ear.
This isn't over, Blueskin. Not even the Titans can save you.
Yeldarb ignored the threat. He followed the emissary through the throngs of people toward the castle at the center of Giant's Bane. He felt a mixture of relief and exhaustion as they stepped into the castle's main hall. In the future, it was dulled. The colors of the tapestries had faded. The golden trim of the ceilings had long since flaked off. In the past, however, Yeldarb was treated to a feast for the senses.
So, this is what Giant's Bane looked like in its prime,
he whispered. The emissary spun around. Pardon? Did you say something? Yeldarb smiled and shook his head.
No, just admiring the decorations.
The emissary gave a polite nod.
Yes, quite impressive. Right this way, please.
Yeldarb followed the emissary into the throne room. It was largely empty, save for two figures standing at the back. A familiar voice reached his ears.
Yes, well, if the World Tree hadn't vouched for you, I don't think we would have been able to save your friend in time. You got lucky, my elven friend. From the sounds of your story, though, it's hardly the first time.
Yeldarb couldn't resist letting a smile crawl across his face.
Finton, you're alive!
He shouted. The two figures paused their conversation and turned toward him. Yeldarb was overjoyed to see Sarai and a familiar Titan looking back at him.
Who is Finton? The Titan asked.
My apologies, Your Grace. My friend here is confused. He should know that you are the Titan Meribok. Don't you, Yeldarb?
Sarai asked. Yeldarb's eyebrows shot up.
Yes, of course. My apologies, it has been quite the night.
Meribok laughed.
It's quite all right. I must say I do like that name, though. Well, in any case, I am pleased to see that your head is still on your shoulders. Your friend here was just telling me about how you met.
Yeldarb and Sarai made eye contact. He chose to remain silent and simply continued smiling. Meribok turned back to Sarai.
Now that I've confirmed your story with the World Tree, I should speak with the others,
Meribok said. Sarai nodded.
Yes, of course, Your Grace. Where are the other Titans?
Meribok waved his hand through the air.
Oh, they're around, I'm sure. It will take a moment to track them all down.
Meribok? Are you in here?
A voice asked. Sarai and Yeldarb both looked at the entrance of the throne room as a woman stepped through the doors. Her chestnut hair flowed like a river across her shoulders. Her skin was the color of freshly fallen snow, and her eyes were more blue than all the waters of the Andarian expanse. Yeldarb had read stories about her in Devine's ancient tomes, but to see her in person, he realized that even those words failed to describe the true depths of her beauty. Sarai, too, was struck by the sight of her. Both she and Yeldarb went silent.
Who are you?
The woman asked, her eyes scanning both Yeldarb and Sarai. Meribok clapped his hands together and stepped forward.
Aha! There you are, sister! These two guests of ours just arrived with dire news. We must gather all the Titans together to hear it.
Meribok gestured to Yeldarb and Sarai.
Yeldarb, Sarai, allow me to introduce you to my sister, the Titan Khazra.